Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've mentioned before I used to drive a tow truck. I drove a tow truck for a gas station in a town called Birmingham, Michigan, right out of high school. And we had the contract with the Birmingham Police Department. We shared it with another station. So a lot of times the calls we'd get would literally be, hi, this is the police, and there's an accident at this intersection. Come get it, please. And so we would show up, and we'd tow the vehicle, and we'd send the bill, and the bill would get paid. And the bills, the amount we were allowed to charge, was regulated and set by the police. But of course, we were being called by the police. So that'd make complete sense. Every now and then we hear these stories about people whose cars got towed and they were handed some outrageous bill. And I did a story about a similar topic that happened in Michigan almost 2 years ago now. But here's another one. Rod sent this to me and said, Steve, since you worked, with a tow truck years ago, maybe you'll enjoy this one. Pennsylvania Insurance Fraud Agency warns of wreck chasers charging thousands after towing cars. And this is by Andy Sheehan, KDKA. On Monday, the TV station showed invoices in a piece of bills topping $10,000 to tow a car. Outrageous, unreasonable. Most people say yes, but it's happening. So here's what's going on. KDKA investigated this on what your rights are in a crash and what might need to happen to reform the towing system. Because the question is this illegal? So if you're in an accident, your car is damaged, you might even be injured, disoriented, whatever, and a tow truck driver shows up and goes, do you want me to tow your vehicle for you? And you go, well, okay. And it might be they're only going to tow it a mile, say, right? If you go with the wrong one, it might cost you or your insurance company a small fortune. And by the way, your insurance company might say, we don't have to pay that outrageous towing bill. We'll pay a reasonable towing bill. So one woman said, I feel like they stole my car. I just want my car back. But of course, they're not going to give you your car until you pay the bill. It could be thousands for the tow and thousands more in related fees, such as a recovery fee, a gate fee, administrative fee, a storage fee. In this case, the woman's insurance company had to pay more than $10,000 to get her car back, and they paid it. So a man speaking from the Pennsylvania Insurance Fraud Prevention Authority said that's beyond outrageous. That's ripping off your neighbor. It's taking advantage of someone in a difficult time. It's a form of theft, in my opinion. So you should understand that you are not required to turn your car over to any tow truck operator who just shows up, okay? If the car is not blocking traffic, you can call AAA, or if you're in the city, Pittsburgh police say you can insist on having the city's contracted carrier take your car anywhere you want for a flat rate. So the city actually has carriers that they work with and are willing to do this at a rate they've agreed to. And the city says, in exchange for us getting you business, when people call us, you agree not to rip people off. So for a flatbed truck right now, it's $180 for the base charge. Storage fees are $25 a day. Now, if the vehicle's over a hill or flipped over, something like that, there are additional fees. That's a sergeant detective speaking from the Pittsburgh Police Auto Squad. But if you do go with one of the on-scene towers, make sure their company's name, address, and phone number is clearly printed on the door, which is required by law in many places. And understand that you cannot sign a blank invoice. They have you sign here, it's blank. Don't sign it. And by the way, you can ask somebody, what will this cost me? And if they say it's going to cost you some dollar figure that sounds reasonable, ask them to put that in the invoice. Because I can tell you right now, when I towed vehicles, I could tell you within $1 or $2 what it was going to cost you. We charged a towing fee for the distance to where we were towing the car. So if I was picking your car up on the far side of town and towing it to my gas station, I could tell you within a couple bucks what it was going to cost you. If you're in an accident, you need to know exactly what the fees are going to be. That thing needs to be filled out completely before you sign anything on there, because if it's not you, then your insurance company is going to get on the hook for it. And then, of course, the question is, will they pay it? The majority of towing companies are honest, hardworking people, and they provide a service we need. The insurance lobby says in most cases it's a safe thing to place your vehicle in the hands of a towing company, but says you need to be aware of those who race to accident scenes and fight with competitors, some with near deadly consequences. And don't forget that there have been actual violent things happening when tow truck operators get in a fight over towing. There were actually a father and son towing pair who were recently sentenced for a shootout that ended up wounding a bystander, and they think they had to do with towing. The wreck chasers, they're a problem. They cost us inflated rates. They have violent incidents fighting over tows. They put people in jeopardy, said this man from the Institute with Insurance. To avoid all that, Philadelphia has implemented a rotation system with registered towing companies to respond to accidents. But while a similar proposal failed to get off the ground here in Pittsburgh, the PA Insurance Fraud Prevention Authority says there needs to be a system statewide. And so it's, if the police call a towing company and the towing company shows up because the police called them, there's a chance that they have an agreement with the police that says, yes, in exchange for you calling us, we'll be reasonable with who we tow from your calls. We need strong legislation and ordinance that would govern the Commonwealth. I want to see the legitimate tow companies, the honest, hardworking men and women that do this, make a great wage and make a great living, but I don't want to see consumers ripped off. KDKA reached out to state legislators, including one who said that they will try to craft legislation to address this problem where other efforts have failed. Now, I can tell you that what happens oftentimes is there'll be really, really bad weather and a massive pileup someplace, 20 or 30 cars. And a bunch of tow trucks will descend upon the scene. The cops want all the cars out of there. Tow truck driver shows them because you want your car towed. And your car is half on the road, half off the road. You know the police want the car out of there. You go, yeah, take it. Well, that happened in Michigan to a woman. By the way, I spoke to her. And they charged her $9,000. And I did a video about this, by the way. I put a link in the description below this one. $9,000. And when they interviewed the police about it, the police said, well, it's not illegal. And the weird part is that on the books, it actually is illegal. But on the books, I'm referring to the blue books behind me, the Michigan law books, Michigan's got a law called the Consumer Protection Act that says specifically at MCL 445-903 sub Z, it is unlawful to charge a price that is grossly in excess of the price at which similar services are sold. So is it always $9,000 to tow a car a couple miles from the side of the road in, say, Southfield to a towing yard in Southfield? Is that $9,000? No. How much is it normally? A couple $100. What about the adverse weather conditions? Okay, tack on a couple hundred more. It's not $9,000. That's a violation of the Consumer Protection Act. Unfortunately, I mentioned before that Michigan Supreme Court has a sketchy history when it comes to interpreting the law. They're the same people who said that you don't need to tighten the lug nuts on tire rotation. But they also have said that the Consumer Protection Act is unenforceable because of the way it's written. It's too confusing, they say. But yes, see if this confuses you. It's unlawful to charge a price grossly in excess of the price at which similar services are sold. And so that would seem to be a violation of the Consumer Protection Act, except that the court has ruled that the Consumer Protection Act is not enforceable. So what states need to do, or cities, a city can solve the problem within its own boundaries. A state can solve its problems within its boundaries. But what the state needs to do, or the city or somebody needs to do, is say, okay, if you are going to tow a vehicle, simple solution is you must tell the person how much it costs in advance. And don't tell me you don't know. There's so much to hook the car up. There's so much per mileage to take it someplace. There's so much to store the car. And if there are special circumstances, that might be extra as well. And so some of you know that there's a guy named Ed Bolian who's got a channel called VinWiki on YouTube. And I appeared on his channel and told a story about driving a tow truck. And I gave examples of the crazy things that happened. I came upon a car that was upside down on dry pavement. And I had to flip it back over before I could tow it. And yeah, we charged the guy for that. Now, we didn't charge him $9,000, but we charged him. I also know that we found vehicles that were, like, say, run into buildings. And so the car was, like, wedged into a building with a wall of bricks leaning over it and had to extract the car. Yeah, it cost a couple bucks extra for that. And then there was a vehicle I came across that had run into an oak tree, and the oak tree didn't move. And that car had its engine pushed into the passenger compartment through the firewall. And the wheels were cocked really, really hard one way, and the fenders were crushed in such a way that they pinned those wheels in that position. So it could not be towed on its front wheels. And because the drive shaft had been pushed back and pushed a differential around, it couldn't be dragged on its back wheels. So the car had to be taken away from the tree and put up on dollies and then reconnected because we did not have a flatbed. Took a lot of work, for which we charged the people, although we did not charge them $9,000. So this is crazy, and it appears to be legal in some places, despite the fact that it is just horribly distasteful that people do this. And keep in mind that a lot of times these people who are contracting for these services are injured. They're very, very upset, very, very emotional, and they're in a situation where they know something's got to get done, and it wouldn't occur to them that they're going to get charged $10,000 to tow the vehicle. Or in the case of Michigan, $9,000 to tow the vehicle. And by the way, the $9,000 bill, I believe, got partially reduced after the news stepped in to the story on it. Like I said, I interviewed the woman in that story, very, very nice woman, and she's like, who'd have thought that was even possible? So Rod, thanks for sending me the story. I love tow truck stories. Pennsylvania Insurance Fraud Agency warns of wreck chasers charging thousands after towing cars. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. If love is the answer, could you please rephrase the question?